Hello and welcome to our March energy update. I don't know why I feel like I haven't done one of these in a really long time. I don't know why it feels like that because Feb is the shortest month, but I feel like this past month felt like one of the longest months in a while. So much has been moving through, and I want to touch on that for a second and then we'll move into March's energy. I just want to say that so much has been moving through the field. We are feeling so much collectively. We're seeing so much get released in the collective. And I know for me, I've had to take a lot of extra time to process. My body has been having symptoms as I'm physically processing. I've needed a lot more downtime. I have been emotional. And so I've just needed to take that space for myself. And I just want to encourage you to allow that for yourself as well, so that you can actually move through those energies. And in times where things are feeling extra stressful or there's a lot of anxious energy in the air or fear energy in the air, that's a time when we have an opportunity to actually put our tools to the test, and we have an opportunity to live what we preach. How am I going to move through this? How am I going to show up to this? How am I going to take care of myself through this? How am I going to hold the greater vision for what I desire on this planet while also not bypassing my emotions? And one of the things I want you to really understand is that continuing to focus on what you do want does not have to mean bypassing your emotions. You can do both. You can authentically feel your feelings and acknowledge the reality of things and hold a higher vision and keep energizing what we want more of. And I find at times like this, it's really easy for people to fall into thinking about and accidentally energizing what they don't want. We want to make sure that we are allowing our emotions to process, and we're allowing ourselves to also zoom out. And again, that doesn't all happen at the same time. We allow ourselves to go through those processes, but we zoom out and we come into, okay, if I am stepping into leadership, if I see myself as a spiritual leader on this planet, how am I showing up to this? What's the example I can set? What is the way that I can respond from a place of love and sovereignty and holding a higher vision of more love and peace for this planet? So I think it's a really important time to be doing grid work if that's something that you have the ability to do, which everybody does. But I know I have been doing a lot of work just architecting more of what we need more of on the planet, because a lot of what's happening is things are unraveling, but most people have not actually gridded in what they want to step into. And so this is where we actually get to enter this landscape of being a co-creator. And I really encourage you to utilize that. There are a lot of people in spiritual spaces who learn a lot and talk a lot, but I find there's a really big gap with how we do, how we be, how we live. How do we actually apply that into our lives to create something different? And application is the real invitation for us right now. So I just want to remind you of that. If you've been having strange symptoms, I know I have. Spiritual flu season is in full effect. Really just letting yourself have that time and space to process. And I know it took me a long time to figure out that my body would have very physical reactions to processing a lot of collective energy, and I just need to let it move through. So of course, always check with your medical provider about things, but spiritual flu is a real thing. So as we enter into March, I'm really curious about the energy here. I don't remember anything about what I said last month, so here we go. And I was driving yesterday and the guides just said really loudly, March is fire. And I just saw lots of reds and fire energy, and there's a real kind of strength and potency to that. Today when I dropped in earlier, the first thing that they were showing me was a lot of greens and heart-centered energy. And I actually think those go in hand pretty well. We are in a 4-month, which is about foundations, it's a good month usually to put your head down and work on some things. It's a good month to reorganize the things that stabilize your life. I know for me, I've been spending a lot of time working on shifting my daily routines and even managing my time better. I've been doing a lot of time blocking and upgrading that and shifting that and moving a lot of pieces in my life and in my business to really align with how I want to feel. And when I look at, do you want to just connect that for me? So the fire energy is a lot of, okay, I'm finally being pushed into action, into energy. I'm getting that motivation that I need to make the shifts I need to make. And so that feels like an internal fire that translates into an action-oriented fire. That heart-centered energy is like, wow, I'm really allowing my heart to break open. I'm really dropping deeper into what I really want and how I really want to feel, because I am facing things that are making me realize that maybe where I'm at is not fully how I want to feel. Maybe I can push things a little further in terms of how I am embodying the person I say I am, or the frequencies I want to feel more of in my life. And so that's where that fire and that heart-centered energy really come together, where it's a really big reality check's not the right word, but it's like you have this inner fire, this inner I've drive. I've got to go. I've got to change. I've got to shift this. And that forces you and allows you, encourages you to go in deeper and to really open up and feel your feelings in a way you haven't before. And I think a lot of people think that those are two different mechanisms, when actually I know to be true that a lot of the biggest shifts I've made in my life have because I have been so frustrated or enraged or brokenhearted. And so it cracks me open to the point where I am able to go deeper within myself than ever before. And in doing that, I get a lot of clarity about what I want to do next. And action from that space of clarity and pure resonance is really fluid as opposed to forced. So if you have been feeling like you don't have the energy for something, or if you've been feeling like you don't have the motivation, or you are on the fence, you're back and forth, dipping your toe in, I would pay attention to this month where you're being invited to drop in a lot deeper, and what that's trying to show you about, okay, maybe you've been on the fence for a while, like go all the way in. And the deeper you go in, the more you're going to actually have natural energy and flow and clarity on what you're going to do in your life to embody that shift in frequency. So it's a really deep energy. It's a really reflective energy that's not so soft and subtle, but it's a lot of, okay, I'm getting right in the middle of it there. I'm getting really deep into the heart of the matter. And a lot of this is about inner liberation about these places where I think us seeing where we're still just hitting the tip of the iceberg and there's something deeper within you. So we'll start there. We'll see, where do you want to start here? No. Okay, well, I guess those. I wasn't going to go for these. I don't usually use these, but this red is really calling to me. And I'm getting a lot of imagery around mythology. I'm getting a lot of imagery of centaurs. I'm going to read Harry Potter. There are parts of Harry Potter that are not in the movies that are like really important. I don't know what's going on with these cards. Okay. That's a message. Where things are not quite coming together. You're going to see why. And I think there's a really strong piece of this that is seeing the world in a different way, a bit more of a poetic way. I find there's a lot we can get from mythology, and fiction that teaches us really important lessons that actually guide us deeper into positive application, even more so than more of our left brain thinking or left-brained resources. I would think about that. Sometimes I have been, for example, wondering, something with my business and I think it's a very left brain problem, and I'll get a message to read a certain book, like some fiction book, for example, that I think has nothing to do with it. And so I read it and then I get the clarity. So I would really notice what other angles are trying to come in, because again, the clarity you need about these more practical, and I'll say like foundations, routines, steps to take are actually going to come through another door. They're going to come through a more right brain type of door. Oh, isn't this funny? Knowledge, shift, new life, and transmute. Very on par. There is a strong, like, what are you reading? What are you watching? And recently I've been telling people to really cut down on their consumption. But I think it's a great time to consume fiction, and fiction that has like a magical feel or more of a romantic feel. I think a lot of people are getting called back to books from like late 1900s, for example. I mean, even really early 2000s. But there's a lot of the answers that we need, or the perspective we need. It's right there in front of us. But there's a really strong call of like reading books, any specific books. They're bringing up, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the cover, but what's the name? Irresistible by, who is it? Adam Alter. Okay, Irresistible by Adam Alter. I could see the cover. That book. Harry Potter came up. They're bringing up the Space Odyssey movie. There's a lot of space stuff coming up. I started reading Project Hail Mary, which isn't like A Tale of Two Cities. The Wheel of Time show again always comes up, but I'm actually never. I keep trying to watch it. 1984. So I would pay attention to the different ways that knowledge wants to come through, but there's a real deepening. There's like a real emotional depth that's actually going to open up more of your intellectual capacity, and that's what wants to come through right now. Shift, new life, transmute. This is a lot of change and transformation. This is a lot of I'm rebuilding the structures and foundations that's going to carry me through the next while here, because I think you're actually getting that oomph within our hearts of, okay, things have to change. And most people don't realize how dramatically their action needs to change, or their embodiment needs to change in order for them to really make a shift. Like, it is all a matter of embodiment. And so, okay, I'm stepping into a new life, a new frequency. I think that often things have to feel well, they don't have to, but what happens is it's when things feel really hard or really shitty that people then get really serious about what they need to change. And that's a lot of the energy that I'm feeling for this month. It's I don't want to say hitting a rock bottom, but it's just hitting this like level of frustration emotionally, because things might even feel like they're just fine. I actually feel more like it's just stagnant. It's fine, or it might even feel like it's going in the right direction. There's an emotional frustration or an emotional block, or an anxiety or a fear or a limitation. It's like where your head is at is not fully calibrated to that your deep inner knowing of what wants to be expressed. And so what's happening this month is actually opening up a lot of this space for those to become coherent. And I would say that this month is going to show you how you can drop into deeper coherence within yourself. And that's a lot of that inward facing, going into my heart, becoming aware of myself, learning things through stories. I just think learning through stories is so important and powerful. That's why I love archetypes. It hits a part of our knowingness that trying to learn intellectually just doesn't. And that's where you start to feel yourself in this stream of synchronicity. I feel that this month you're going to really start to notice all the signs in a new way when you actually drop into that ownership of, you know what, I'm noticing this incoherence within myself. You know what, I am requiring more in this space. You know what, like I am feeling a subtle friction and I don't want that, but it feels like this deeper empowerment piece of, if I'm feeling something in the collective and I'm not liking this, like, what am I doing about it? Am I part of the problem? Am I just energizing more of it? Or am I actually starting to shift things in terms of frequency? Like, am I doing things different? And I think there's a real dropping into in your arena, in your industry, how are you bringing a new frequency through? We can no longer just keep calibrating to other people so everyone feels comfortable. There has to be new infrastructure built, and that starts with clear embodiment. And so I'd really notice these really subtle ways that you adjust yourself with how you talk, or even your perception or your paradigm, depending on who you are with, to keep the middle ground versus really holding that higher level of embodiment. It's okay to say, I don't see things that way. It's okay to say, you know what, like, I prefer to energize this. It's okay to do that. But I think this is where we're getting a bit, we need to get a little bit more nitpicky with ourselves, because it's these like micro tears in the aura, essentially, these micro leaks that we have that are the bigger issue than the big leaks. And that's where going really deep into your heart space is going to come up. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of emotions. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of like positive pull in certain directions. It's not about it making sense. It's about following that stream that the universe is trying to get you to drop into, so you can be taken to something that's more magical and easier. And that's what's available for you right now. But it's noticing where the structures of your life aren't allowing you to follow that. Where are the structures of your life not allowing you to follow your flow, your creativity, your intuition? Even with certain friendships, relationships of any sort, where the structure of that relationship or even that dynamic is making it so you keep dropping into a different frequency instead of holding the energy of being in that infinite stream of love in the universe. And so I always come back to how good I feel when I'm meditating, I'm doing my energy work, and that is where I am just in the oneness. I'm in pure love. And then I think about, as I move through my day, am I holding this energy, or what are the places where I'm finding myself having to step out of that energy or adjust myself? And what would it look like for me to require that I stay in that stream and just to allow? That's the difference between doing things the manual way and allowing for flow. So things are not going to flow when the infrastructure within itself is not set up for harmony. It's not set up to allow you to be following your intuition or following truly resonant frequencies. And so we have to look at the structures we've set up for ourselves and the rules and the conditions we've set on ourselves about how we have to show up in certain places or what we have to do here. And I think we really need to rewire things like the idea of professionalism and what that actually looks like, the idea of individuality and what that actually looks like, the idea of authenticity and what that actually looks like, the idea of management and what that actually looks like. There are a lot of things we actually need to rewire consciously and co-create in a new way. And so I would really look at what you are being asked to shift within how you do things. I think that in many cases, I would say, let's not reinvent the wheel, but right now I would say it's time to reinvent the wheel. The stag, pride, leadership. The dragon, power, strength. There's that fire energy, focus, and joy. So this comes back to what I was saying before about what does it look like for you to step into your essence as a leader. And leadership doesn't just show up if you are talking to a group of people or leading a group of people. Leadership is how you live your life. Leadership is a frequency. If you are living in a cottage in a forest, you don't see anybody for a year, how you show up and the energy you embody is impacting the planet. And when we start to understand that our leadership is setting the vibration for the grid around us, we get called up into, am I actually creating what I want more of on this planet, or am I just continuing to calibrate into what's been set up before me. So this is definitely the time of finding a deeper power within ourselves and a deeper strength. And I was thinking actually this morning, this just reminds me of, I forget what I was re-listening to an old session I had with a mentor from a few years back, and we were talking about my childhood, and I just had this thought in my head. I was like, well, I don't ever like feel bad for any hardship I went through, because it's how I learned my own strength. Like, I wouldn't take anything back, and like things were hard, but I'm happy that I went through everything I did, because it forced me to see my own strength, because I had to be strong. And if I had never had to, then I wouldn't know my own strength. And I think my inner strength is so core to my potency. And it's one of the things that I love the most about who I am. And we all have such powerful strength within us. It doesn't have to come from any lower vibrations. It comes from love. And that was the thing that I learned in my journey, was all of these times where I was getting the opportunity to love myself enough to be strong for myself. And it didn't feel like I was pushing through with no gas in the tank. It felt like that knowing and that connection to that self-love and my inner strength was endless fuel and endless energy for me to get up and do what I needed to do in my life. And this month, there's this really strong energy of that realization within yourself as well, about what if you're a lot stronger than you think, and what if you have a lot of power, and how are you using it? Are you harnessing it? How do you want to direct that? That's a real call to action, because when you realize that, this is where, okay, I can actually focus on what I want. And again, we're going back into, reworking structures, reworking templates of our lives, but also like the grids that we're living in. As within, so without, realizing everything is the hologram. And so how I live my life is also going to be reflected back into what we can actually create on the planet together. But looking at all these extras I have, and all the extras I have in my life where I don't feel like I can focus, is where I am not locked into my own inner power, where I am not locked into my own inner strength, where I'm not locked into my deepest sense of, I love myself, so I'm going to take care of myself. And I keep getting dragged into what other people want me to focus on. You have the power to direct your focus, and that is how you create a new life. And that comes with your thoughts, that comes with your actions. You have the power to direct your focus. And when you do that, that's how you really activate joy. And there's a real lesson here about where I'm not feeling my joy is because I am not choosing my focus. You can choose your focus. So I think that's a really important thing that we're going to unlock this month. I would really notice, again, it's just so internal to me. And I would just really notice these places where you adjust your frequency for the space around you, because those are the leaks. And if you can simply stop doing that and follow what actually feels like love and resonance and alignment for you, and clean up all of the structures in your life, things are gonna rebalance. And even those questions, like for me, when I look at things like my business, I will always go from both angles. I'll go from a classic entrepreneurship, personal development question, and then on the other side, I'll think from a more intuitive, spiritual question. So one would be, someone who's making $50 million a year in their business, how are they thinking and how are they showing up? Like, to me, that's a left brain question, right? Like, how are they spending their time? But then the other side of it is, where am I noticing flow? What am I noticing is working? What am I feeling inspired and called to do? What is my mission on this planet? And so that's another angle to come into the same thing. And that starts to give you a framework to clear out the extras, because it's a lot of extras, and those are the things diluting our focus, and our focus is what allows us to energize more of what we want more of, and that is our joy. All right, I have my unicorn cards. Cycles. Everything has its right time. Honor the cycles of your body. Tune into the moon's magic. Delight. Count your blessings and enjoy life. Take pleasure in simple things. Always expect the best. I love that one. I haven't got that one. Healer. You have powerful healing gifts. Thanks. Have faith in your abilities. Stay true to your path as a healer. In expansion, spread your wings and soar. Share your message and shine your light. Show the world what you're made of. This is really the launch pad. This month is really doing the deeper work to set yourself up to be able to really fly, to really expand forward. I think this is, again, this idea of playing the long game. Like, I feel like this is one of the things I am meant to transmit to people, because people are so caught up in instant gratification, and cycles is about what needs to be moved through now, what needs to be focused on now. And I might have a huge project I want to work on, but maybe right now I need to focus on handling admin, organizing things, setting things up so that there aren't just holes. Maybe right now I need to attend to this huge project, and that stuff can go to the side. Maybe right now my body needs a lot more sleep and a lot more rest and emotional processing. And on the other side of that, maybe I'm going to be taking a lot more action, feel a lot clearer, be a lot busier. Can I allow myself to play the long game and to trust that everything is going to have its time? I think that's a real growth. And the other part of that is knowing when time is up. Some of you have been done with a cycle for a long time, and you're staying in it, and it's draining your energy. Like, we have to actually let the cycles move through. Think about nature and how the seasons change, and you physically, externally see how the leaves change and the flowers change and the grass changes and the sky changes and everything changes. You see that. It's felt. A lot of people do not allow their cycles to move through, and they're in one season all the time, and then get really, really tired, and they think they don't have energy to move to the next season. When really, if you let yourself move to the next season, you would get more energy, because the contract is up. Move on. And that's one of the big signs that your contract is up, is you don't have any energy to stay there anymore. You've got to let yourself move on in the next phase. Things are meant to move cyclically, and we all have our different rhythms to that, but there are always cycles. It is how life is meant to work, and that has to be built into your physical body routines, your business, your career, your social life. Are you allowing for those cycles to move through? That's where you're going to get a lot of clarity. And when you actually just allow yourself to be in cycles, and if you set up your routines and your life structures to allow for those cycles, that naturally brings you new messages and new insight you need, rather than you having to look for it, because you're getting new stimulation by being in a new frequency with each cycle. And so that is a really important part of how you architect your life. Again, what are we focusing on is what we're expanding. And there is a really deep, again, I'm going into my heart. I'm recognizing my power. I'm realizing I have so much more power than I think. I realize that I can actually really impact my life and the people around me and the planet in a positive way if I apply the things I know, if I embody a higher frequency on this planet. And that is what we are being asked to do. I think right now there's so much on social media and so much in the world, it's really easy to fall into groupthink, and most people do. Don't do that. What are you doing to ground yourself? What are you doing to show up as a spiritual leader? What are you doing to energize the planet that you want to create here? You are a part of that. And if you don't think you're part of that, then that's going to be your block, because it's all got to work together. All right. Last messages for March. Okay. We are following the same storyline here. It's like we just pull the cards so that you believe what I'm channeling. Nine of Cups, Four of Cups, Four of Pentacles, the World, and look at all these fours. Just saying. 10 of Wands, 5 of Wands, and Queen of Cups. We are following the same storyline. This is, maybe you feel more comfortable keeping everything you currently have in your life, but something needs to go. And there's something new trying to come in that you are not looking at. When it feels like everything is going wrong, when you're anxious, when there's fear, we're focusing on the things that are activating more of that. And what would it look like for you to see what the opportunity is? Whenever things are leaving our life, another door is opening. There is something in front of you that's trying to be offered to you. There's an invitation for a new perspective, an invitation for a new relationship, an invitation to step into a new part of yourself, an invitation to start to embody a part of yourself that actually brings you a lot of joy. But when we're so busy looking at what's not working, or we're so busy overthinking what's just been stuck for a long time, we don't see it. There is a new direction here. But what's getting called up is all the things that you're holding on to. And I would think about the energy of greed. And greed comes from scarcity energy. And a lot of people are confused why they're not receiving abundance. It's because they're in scarcity energy. When you're holding on to things, when you're hoarding things, when you don't want to let go, it's all coming from scarcity energy. And so we have multiple cards here that are about, what is it time to release? Can you stop holding on to things so tightly? Can you complete the cycle you're in and step into a new one? What are the burdens that you're carrying? Where is there conflict within yourself? These can be really subtle. For some of you, this might be really obvious, but to me, this feels very internal, of like a war within yourself where you're like, I just can't do it this way anymore. Or I've just had this low grade anxiety or this low grade dissatisfaction with this area. And like, I need to really do this differently. Because where we're ending up with this Queen of Cups is emotional fulfillment. It is your joy. It is your heart is full. And I think that needs to be your main intention this month. It's about what would actually make my heart full, what would actually align me with joy. And I would really back into everything from that. And I know we talk about that a lot, but most people don't actually architect their lives around actual heart fulfillment, actual living in joy through the architecture of your life. Your entire life is just a series of moments strung together, and all of those moments, are you doing what you should do or what you're supposed to do, or are you doing things that actually make you happy? And so this has to be the energy we back into it from. That's where you're going to end up if you start to look at what has been right in front of you that you are not grabbing hold of and allowing to materialize in a greater way. It can just start as a thought or an idea, but you have to grab onto it to bring it into the field, to let it start to illuminate and build and grow and architect. You've got to grab that first. But instead, it's like, I'm so busy with everything that's already happening. I'm lost in the sauce here. I'm trying to make this happen. I'm trying to tweak this. We got to let go. We got to let go and rework it. Drop the burdens you're carrying. And I always think about, the idea of when there's 50 things on our to-do list, and sometimes you just got to look at it and realize, which of these am I just honestly never going to get done? And that's really freeing. So we are no longer going to be able to withstand this internal conflict within ourselves. It might be subtle, it might be loud, but your heart and your body and your entire resonance system is not only asking of you, but requiring you to do things differently so that you can be living from a space of an open heart and joy and actual fulfillment. And that's what you have available for you this month. I feel like a few really good meditations from the membership related to this would be the What Do You Really Want meditation. Is amazing to drop it in that question. I would do the starting a new cycle, guided energy work. That's longer, but I think that could be a really nice ritual to move into this new phase. The soul self-love guided energy work, and the room of mirrors. Room of mirrors is my favorite for seeing blind spots. And I think with this, it's like, okay, where am I actually not fully in my joy that I'm not seeing? And what would that look like for me to really rise? So I know there's a few in there, but I would really recommend those going into March just based off of this energy read. You're going to learn a lot about yourself and a lot about the paradigms you're living from. So it's going to be a really, really powerful month to change your perspective in a really fundamental way. If you want to check out any of those meditations, well, I was going to say you could comment Next Level You, but the link will be in the description below. It's christinathechannel.com/membership, and you can get a 7-day free trial to try out my whole guided energy work library, which is a must-have tool for the times we are in, for releasing, for activating, and for co-creating our lives. That will complete our March energy update. Let me know how this landed for you. What are you feeling going into this month? I always love to hear it. And thank you again for hanging out with me today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Have an amazing March, and I will chat with you again soon.